Welcome back. This is your hostess with the mostess and the best one there is, and it's her birthday week. Sha-na-na-na-na-na.
It's PJ.
Hi, it's Laura.
It's Ray.
Seriously.
Oh,
I know.
and
How do we
Lola.
compete
We've
to
got
that?
Lola.
Only Kyle has decent intros, you guys. I set you up. He's doing it on purpose now, but I expect more out of my visitors.
Well, we'll know for next time.
Yes. Okay. I will work on this.
All right, round 2.
No. It stays. Welcome back. It's so nice to have you. Are you ready to discuss more creepy dolls?
Always.
Why not?
I feel like this is just be our new thing, is just discuss all the creepy dolls.
Yeah.
We should talk about Lily next time.
Jeez.
It'll
And
be
there's the movie Megan coming out. I just saw that trailer.
What?
Sophie wants to see it.
Oh, it does look
Yeah.
creepy.
What is Megan? I don't watch TV. I watch Bluey.
She's like a life-size android kind of looking doll.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like AI. But her programming is to protect the girl at all costs, basically, from physical or emotional harm. You can see how this is not going to end well.
All I think is furry baby.
Yeah.
Furry baby. So it's like Bubble Boy, but without the bubble. Instead, it's an AI.
I've
Yeah,
never
I mean,
seen
it's
Bubble
a
Boy.
it's a story I've definitely heard before. I just can't put
Yeah.
my finger on where. Of like someone having a toy, but the toy is way too smart and it turns evil. You know,
It's
like
if
this
Chucky
toy is
cared about his
yeah.
person.
This toy is your companion,
It sounds-
but then
See, what
it turns
I've
evil.
been getting sick of all these like new age horror movies where it's like there's a deeper story, a deeper meaning here. So is this a metaphor for helicopter parents? Probably. Haven't even watched it, but I've debunked it. Megan's gonna be a Karen.
It's probably more a
Mm.
metaphor for just Silicon Valley and AI getting
Yeah.
way too smart.
We
Also,
will
I think the
see.
parents are dead.
Yeah, it's the
Which is why
aunt.
we have a new helicopter parent.
Yep, she's the aunt, and she's trying to make her niece happy with this doll that's going to protect her and be her friend. And then the doll's overprotective.
Mhm.
I can be your friend. La, la, la.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you
So-
probably haven't seen VeggieTales. Again.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
appreciated it.
Yeah.
My life is just childhood.
That went over my head.
I mean, I've seen Bluey. That's the
Mhm.
most I can do.
I told you about Sean. Or
Mom.
did I tell you Mom's story about
Yeah,
Sean?
I heard
yeah.
it.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
So good.
Good stories that our listeners have no idea what I'm talking about. So anyway, you're back this week to discuss Robert the doll.
Robert Robert.
Robert. Named after his owner, the illustrious Robert.
He goes by
Robert-
Gene.
Yeah, Robert Eugene Otto.
Yes.
So we're going to get into that pretty heavy after Creepy Thoughts with Kyle. First, I thought we'd like to go back a little bit to the Uncanny Valley discussion we were having, because I happened to mention it in passing to my students, and they thought it was a really cool idea, but they had not heard of it. Then I mentioned to one of my gifted kids, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've heard of it. It's actually called the Uncanny Valley." And he's like, "Oh, this I can't use his name, but you know who I'm talking about."
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
So right away, it was like, oh, I feel like I should discuss this more, because there's a lot of theories behind it. And now that I'm like in my PhD, like, proper, I love theories. So it's just, there's a lot of intelligence behind it. And the more I research it, the more I realize that like, it's not a new idea. And actually Charles Darwin was the originator of the Uncanny Valley concept. He just didn't use that term. So I pulled up the origin and history and external factors impacting the McGurk effect, which is fun to say, the Uncanny Valley.
McGurk effect.
The McGurk effect. And there's so many references. It's so good. Like, this is a really, really good article. And it's from the Foundation of Critical Thinking. So like, if you get bored and want to read some really good, heavy stuff, I would really suggest hopping on this website. But anyway, I don't see anyone doing that except for me, because I'm a nerd who likes to read these kinds of things. I want to just kind of mention the Charles Darwin thing. So he observed a viper's face. So this is kind of cool. And so he wrote in The Voyage of the Beagle, "I imagine this repulsive aspect originates from the features being placed in positions with respect to each other, somewhat proportional to the human face, and thus we obtain a scale of hideousness." And so big words there from 1839 from Darwin. But what he's saying is, because the viper looks so humanistic, but it didn't act like a human, therefore we found it hideous. So he coined the idea of that uncanny sensation before it was ever written down.
So basically, he's seen the movie Cats.
He saw cats before cats was cool.
Right.
But he would have called it serpents or vipers or
'Cause it's
snakes.
so weird, and they're almost human, but it's just
Not.
Yes.
So Megan is going to be like that, it sounds like. Yeah. But it mentioned before that a Japanese professor in 1970 had created, his name was Masahiro Mori. He was a professor of robotics. And now his discussion of it was loosely translated by Yasira Reichart. She described it as the uncanny valley. Like, she translated into that to English. And so we've kind of stuck with uncanny valley because she put it in her book, Robots, Fact, Fiction, and Prediction in 1978. But I did want to read from this article because it's just, I like the way he words it. In his original hypothesis, Mori held that the more a robot resembles an actual human, the more empathetic and positive the emotional response of the observer becomes, until the resemblance reaches a certain point. At that point, the positive and empathetic emotional response is quickly turned into intense revulsion. However, as the robot's appearance continues to become even more human, the positive emotion returns, and the level of empathy approaches the level seen that in interactions between human beings. So I like the idea of, like, you know, it's okay if it's not anywhere near humanistic. So Cabbage Patch Doll, we discussed during Annabelle, not okay when you get to, like, you know, this creepy feature where they're kind of staring you kind of blankly and they're kind of twitching. But then if they look superhuman, totally cool. I don't care if you're actually AI, but you look and act human, so I feel love towards you, not revulsion. So I do find that interesting. There is like that little disconnect right in the middle. So you I'd have to go full AI or no AI, I guess.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
And kind of leading back into Robert, you know, when you look at his face, this doll in particular, I honestly, he almost looks like kind of like a monkey.
Yes.
A little. Yeah.
Actually, there's a reason. We'll discuss why.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, shall we launch into Robert?
No, I'm not there yet.
Okay. Well, continue,
Goodness,
please.
I got theories to go through.
Hit me.
But yeah, so but Robert.
Oh, sorry.
But back to Robert, like, I think part of the discussion there is he looks something like a human, really, you know.
Yeah.
So I think he's cute, but kind of like old and kind of grody looking.
I think he's weird looking.
Well, have you looked in the
He's
mirror?
just weird.
Oh.
You know, just because he brings back bad memories of my childhood, okay, doesn't mean...
So, but if you think about all the different movies that we've seen recently, that's why we like or hate them. PJ had mentioned Polar Express, right? I didn't know this, but apparently there was a movie produced by Pixar in 1988 called Tin Toy.
Oh, yeah, Tin Toy.
I was
It was
a year
their first
old.
ever CG.
Yeah, I had never heard of this, but it's in the article because that's when they think that would be probably the first example of the uncanny valley that they can find, like, in movie. But there's the first baby in Tin Toy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
They were
wow.
going for real, but
It's
it
the
just
first
looks,
ever
yeah,
CG
weird.
He's
animated
got some
short.
bags under his eyes, so I feel like he's just that baby's seen something.
Yes.
But like
I don't want to meet that.
We
baby's
watched Toy Story, and
parents.
it's like not too bad compared to Toy Story, but that's just a still shot. I didn't watch the whole movie. They mentioned some video games, so you'll see like a video game at the bottom of that. But I like that they mentioned A Christmas Carol here because of my comment, because you mentioned Robert Zemeckis' all of his movies, and I absolutely love and hate the Jim Carrey version of Christmas Carol. I love it because it's spot on. Like the Ghost of Christmas Past, love it. Like it's what's supposed to be. But I cannot stand how creepy he looks because it's too realistic, but then not. So that uncanny thing right there. Oh
wow.
can't stand. I hate it. I hate it. Like I love it and hate it. I want to watch it with my kids, but I don't, you know? And actually I have on the docket for us to watch this Friday if they finish their final drafts of their essays. So I'm going to be the cool teacher. Possibly. I just won't look at the screen the whole time.
I've actually never seen this version.
It's really good, and Jim Carrey does a phenomenal job.
Except for the weird uncanny valley effect of all the people.
Mhm,
Yeah.
Like their dead soulless eyes
Yeah,
freak
Tiny
me out.
Tim scares me. I don't think he's a good, wonderful boy who deserves to go to heaven. God bless us. I don't know. Oh, God, we need some holy water first. So anyway, the different theories that I love for the uncanny valley. The first one is the violation of human norms. What do you think that means? Pop quiz time.
Just making things that don't look
Because
quite
we
human.
all have master's degrees here right now.
Violates nature. It doesn't look right.
No, good. We'll take that. You're wonderful. Yes, it is
Gold star.
possible.
It ain't right.
I'm going to give you one of our new Games Overboard stickers. There you go. New merch. It is possible
I
the
get a sticker.
I want to read this. Get a sticker. We're going to put on your sticker chart. It is possible the uncanny valley results from a non-human entity's failure to measure up to the standards of an actual human being. When an object, there you go, but it sounds prettier because they're smarter here. See the words there?
What did you just call me?
I don't know. When an object appears to be sufficiently non-human, its human features become more salient and tend to elicit sympathy. Nonetheless, when the object looks almost human, its non-human features become more noticeable. So again, Cabbage Patch Doll, Barbie, okay, no problem. Those newborn creepy dolls that your mom loves, we hate it. The next one is the salience of mortality. What do you think that one means? The salience of mortality.
Their creepy asses remind us of being dead.
Yes,
No
pretty
lifelessness
much.
behind their eyes.
Yes. Another explanation holds that the uncanny valley results from an inborn fear of death coupled with culturally accepted mechanisms for coping with the inevitability of death. So we don't want to be reminded that we're going to die. And so seeing this like lifeless thing freaks us out because it's just unnatural, right? I think also they mentioned a little bit later, it's kind of funny, such scenes can be reminiscent of human mortality. Additionally, the mechanical interior of an almost human-like robot can evoke the thought that human beings too are merely soulless machines. So there's that morality feature of it too, where it's like, okay, well, does this AI mean more than me? Am I useless? Am I also just a soulless machine? Does my life have no meaning? And it just evokes this like really dark, like depressive state.
Oh my gosh! Now you're taking me back to the Twilight Zone episode with
Episode
with the woman who has the wrap on her face.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like it's all perception. Like we think that some of these CGI look weird, but maybe we look weird to them.
Well, it's like that AI that just the Google worker came out about. Did you hear about this?
No.
This was about a month ago. A worker at Google said that they have made true AI, and it is sentient and self-aware and everything. But now he's not working. He got fired. And Google is saying, like, this is not true. There's no such thing as true AI. We have not achieved this. And the guy's like, no, I have the transcripts of our conversation. Like,
Oh my god.
and he
Yikes.
posted it, and it's like you're talking to a real person.
But
Like,
where is the AI? Is he locked up somewhere?
it's just like on a computer server somewhere.
But is it trapped? I mean, like if it's conscious.
That's so
Yeah.
weird. Wait, is it actually talk, or is it like a chat
He
sort of situation?
chats to it, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Still,
Yeah.
Still,
it's Ghost in the Machine.
So my question is,
Yeah.
how long until he gets crippling anxiety and depression?
Right. Or
I mean-
dictator, like every movie we've ever seen, they all turn into, they
Just
wanna
before the
dictate
next
world,
update.
right? Yeah.
I like to hope the other way, that he just couples his anxiety with depression like most Americans.
well.
Preach, baby, preach. Anyway.
Unfortunately, though, he can't eat his feelings, so.
no. Maybe he can upload them.
Eat code?
Yeah, so just give him some code to eat. Yeah, I
Mm,
don't know. He can pretend. We'll make a game where he can eat chocolate.
there you go.
Yeah, like Pac-Man. Anyway, the next one as a theory is the avoidance of pathogens.
Ooh.
What do you think that stems from? The avoidance of pathogens.
Throw me back into quarantine.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so
I don't know,
pathogens
being
are like
afraid of-
invasive species or whatever, and so the avoidance of this unwanted being in the house.
So yeah, it goes way back. I'm just looking at a clip here, but I can infer pretty well. And when the plague came out, no, you have to go listen to the last podcast on the left, right?
I have
No.
not.
If not,
No.
you need to. So another shout out to a different podcast here. Peach got me hooked on them. I love them. But they do a really long series on the plague, on the Black Death. And they go over how it's actually pronounced bubonic plague, not bubonic plague. And they go over all the different ones too, because Poe wrote The Mask of the Red Death. And people wrongly assume it's on just the plague, but there was the Red Plague. It was the bubonic plague, but a more serious and disgusting version that was very similar to what he mentioned in his short story. And so what they're saying here is that when the robots start twitching and moving unnaturally, that happened with a lot of our plagues. So our brain, even though we have not witnessed, hopefully, the bubonic plague, we've witnessed COVID, we still have that like ancestral DNA that's just in our
Genetic
genomes.
memory.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we recognize, crap, that person, if it is a person, has the plague. Get out of town.
That's
Because
sick.
yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's sick. That ain't good. I know
Sick in
what
a
to
bad
die.
way.
So I find that like fascinating because like we were discussing like, the whole like, disproportionate movements and stuff and the
Yeah.
staring off into space. But those are things that happened as you were dying from the plague. And the red plague, especially, you had blood coming out of like every orifice. You were twitching
Mhm.
from high fevers. So the way that Poe explains it in The Mask of Red Death is like legit what happened. And it was just a horrifying way to die because it was so fast. Which is why it didn't last very long, because it kind of just burned through a village and that was it. Whereas the regular bubonic plague lasted a long time because you're talking it's fleas and all that kind of stuff, right? So
I gotta tell you, that just got me thinking. Do you guys remember the Michael Jackson Thriller video? And
Oh,
there's like this
yes.
whole big dance number. And I know everybody thought it was like the coolest thing. It freaked me out as a kid. And it was at that point, right, where he has like the twitch, and it starts.
yeah,
And it starts like that. And I didn't come to appreciate it until I was like
older,
a teen,
yeah.
like on my 40th birthday. No.
It took a long time, guys.
It took a while, and I wonder if there's something to that. And clearly there is.
Well, probably because you became desensitized because we watched so many scary movies as we get older. I'm sure if
we do, yeah.
If we showed Thriller to Eli right now, he'd probably be crying in a corner.
Yeah.
Right.
He has to watch The Conjuring today.
Yes. No, honey, no.
But just like thinking back to like, when I saw it, what I had seen, like, it wasn't like the makeup that really scared me. It was that twitching that just seemed too freaking scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And so, Sam, it probably came from your ancestral DNA that you
Yeah.
have in you, that fight or flight discussion too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I did fly.
Oh, boy.
Mhm.
Okay.
No
It was a
fighting.
flight situation.
No fighting for that one.
No, I'm out.
There is a challenge to human identity. That is another theory, which I think is pretty straightforward. You had mentioned it too, like the anthropomorphized kind of idea that like the closer it gets to humanistic, the more that we feel threatened as a species because, well, if they can do it, are we really necessary? And so you see that a lot more like as a consequence in modern world, we don't want to have these computers and these robots taking over our jobs, right? But it comes from that conflicting feeling and theory of human identity. Like, are robots better than us? Or are we better than them, right? The last one, though, I liked was the discord between perceptual cues, just because that kind of feeds into the pathogens one. Like, you expect a certain cue to happen when you talk to somebody, or like if you smile, you want to smile back,
Smell
kind
back,
of thing.
right? Sure.
And so when there's that discord in cues, it throws you off. And for me as a teacher, I was kind of discussing this with Laura a little bit before the podcast started. That's why some people can never really be effective educators because they are thrown off by inappropriate social cues. For example, autistic kids some of them are not going to have the proper social cues because they can't pick up on it. They're very logical students. Even if they are high functioning autistic, there is a sect of them that will have logical connections, but they don't pick up the social cues correctly and they can't look you in the eye. It's hard for them to do. So that throws you off and it's harder for you to be an effective teacher unless you understand that and you're empathetic. So for some of these, it's hard for us to get over and to enjoy robots because we have this disconnect because the uncanny valley. So I just found that was really interesting. I wanted to toss all that out at you a little bit. There is a section on avoiding the uncanny valley, but I feel like you really can't avoid it because robots are our current, they are our future. So we got to figure out a way to work with all of that, especially if Google has made an AI.
Mm-hmm.
Common.
So that is my background. Any questions for the Professor Hayden in the room? That's all I got.
How do you feel about AI rights?
We're not there yet. But the Constitution says men and women, right? It's like men's inalienable rights. So I'm not sure if they fit their artificial intelligence. The word artificial is there.
I mean, I agree.
So I don't want to say second-class citizens because then I just feel like we're getting back to the Holocaust.
Oh,
but it's a
citizens at all.
robot. Yeah. Oh.
They're machines.
Oh man.
That's what I say.
Well, I'm sure some AI somewhere disagrees and it's like, I'm a real boy. No, you're not. But I want to be. No, they're robots.
It is.
That's a real boy up there too.
I sure hope it's not a doll.
Robert, no, go back to Florida. Anyway, what were we gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say it is a kind of an interesting philosophical discussion too.
I like that Lola's bored from
I
my.
know, she's asleep on my
Yeah,
lap,
she's just snoring.
away.
If you hear snoring, listeners, it's the dog. She's back again.
I know, we have to get her own intro.
What are your thoughts, Ola? that's what I thought too.
But yeah, I mean, it's like if you create true intelligence that has actual like feeling and emotion, where does humanity lie? Is consciousness and emotion what makes us human, or is it the body, or what is it? I've for my now second master's degree, I've been researching cookbooks, for example. And
interesting.
Well,
that's kind of
know.
cool.
But one of the things, I mean, I guess I always knew, but I never thought about is that, humans are the only animals on the planet that like take the time to flavor and actively cook their food. And we're really, I mean, we're the only ones who then are, of course, sharing recipes and all of that. And it's just, but it's such an only human thing to do.
Mhm.
Like AI probably wouldn't, because they're
They don't
probably
eat.
not eating. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they eat other, like, theoretically.
They want to flavor their fake chocolate with some extra letters or something.
But it's just, I think it opens up some very interesting conversations for the future.
But now we're going to head into Kyle's creepy thoughts, unless anyone's had any more discussion about uncanny thoughts.
No, it was
I'm
very
good here.
interesting. Thank you for sharing.
All right. Well,
Mhm.
you sounded way too smart there, so we got to skip over it because my
Cut
brain.
that out.
No, I'm kidding. We're gonna keep it. No, because I agree. Like with you, it's interesting the things that we can do because we are that apex, predator.
Right.
But you're never gonna see a shark tossing some, pepper on his
Right.
shrimp. He's I don't know what's he eating, like a fish. I don't
But
know.
Though I would pay to see that.
Bam! He jumps out of the water to eat an unsuspecting seal, and he tosses on some garlic. Oh yeah!
And then he sneezes.
All right, so now we're gonna head into creepy thoughts
Yay.
with Kyle.
I think one of the people.
I thought it would be a good idea if we turned Shannon into the girl. I thought it would be a good idea if we. I thought it would be a good idea. I thought it would be a good idea into the girl from Ringu.
This is bad. This is really bad.
It's Ouija.
I just can't.
So, I think that Robert is a work of PR. It's an amazing work of PR, but I think that's all it really is. They've been able to convince a few generations now of people to attribute bad luck to a doll. I adore the spooky, the creepy, the weird, but Robert seems too much like a sideshow or what you might call a humbug. Like they have these rules. Well, who the heck came up with the rules? How would they know what Robert likes or dislikes? And if he's able to get out of this display they have him in and run around and get up to mischief, why wouldn't you just put him in a lockable display? It's very P.T. Barnum to me. It's very, American Museum. I think it's more plausible that a strange guy was known by his neighbors for palling around with a doll, and he became a local legend. And when the museum down in Florida saw an opportunity, they got a hold of some of this guy's stuff, and they saw an opportunity to leverage that local legend into something that would pull in foot traffic. Like, oh, here's this creepy doll that this guy used to own, who was creepy too. And okay, there's a couple of weird stories about it. Well, let's make it like a thing. Let's make a whole thing out of it. Let's give him like a bunch of supernatural stuff. And let's have these rules. When people come in, they have to abide by the rules. And if you don't abide by the rules, you're going to be cursed by Robert. So then slowly over time, it becomes this bigger and bigger tall tale until now it has national reputation, international reputation, and it gets on all the TV shows. I mean, they say he has to give you permission to take his picture. Number one, how do you know if he's given you permission or not? But they have mugs and keychains in the gift shop to be sold, with spooky stuff on them. So he's okay with that. You have to ask him permission to take his picture, but he's okay with the mugs and the keychains and all the stuff that they sell for money. It just smacks of this is a little scheme by them to turn a profit out of a weird, creepy looking doll that they got from this guy's old stuff. I mean, they might as well hang up a sign that says "This way to the egress."
So what are your thoughts on that?
I think I tend to agree, but I will say that the story about the doll and Robert Gene Otto, his original owner, is a strange one.
I agree.
Mhm.
And so, like there's...
Those artsy folks normally are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Laura?
What would I know? No.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, Robert the Doll came on the scene in about 1904. He's from Germany, and he's a custom-made doll.
One of a kind.
One of a kind, probably made for window displays, actually.
Yes, that's why you mentioned the monkey thing earlier.
Yes.
He was made either most likely for circus and clowns, kind of like windows displays.
Yes, and they
What
said that he probably had painted a face painted like a jester. Sorry, Ray, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That kind of explains the circus remark from Kyle, right? Or was that you?
No, that was well, he was more talking about just how the gift shop and the museum is turning it into a sideshow more. But yeah, it does. It does make your like the jester paint like more.
But it seems to be like an organic
segue
or
evolution
evolution of it. It's become exactly what he was destined for.
I like that. The company that made him is the same company that made the first teddy bear.
Yes, I think they're called
Steiff.
Yeah. Company of Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is really it's interesting. So the Otto
fun fact too on a side note, because he was a window display, the sailor outfit that he's wearing was not original to him.
Mm-hmm.
The company has no idea where it came from. So the assumption is it's actually one of Gene's old outfits.
There are pictures of Gene wearing a sailor outfit.
So gross.
Why would you dress your kid in a sailor outfit?
Maybe
that
he
was
likes
common in that time period.
Alex wears fireman outfits.
Well, yes, yeah. I didn't think about it.
Listen,
my parents would never.
Maria tried buying one of those for Alex. She said, "Can I get him a little sailor?" No.
No.
No, honey, no.
I think that's great.
No, I don't, but yeah, it's fine.
So, yeah.
Did your parents ever dress you anything interesting like that, right?
No. I was in private school, so I had a uniform. That was pretty much all I had.
Never.
I had other clothes.
Did you?
Yeah.
Not even like your favorite superhero?
No.
Oh.
No. I had
I had an array of capes.
Yeah.
I know.
Batman.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, nothing that interesting.
By capes, they were just rectangles of fabric that were left over from whatever my mom had lying around.
Hey, whatever,
and we
it
took
worked.
a safety pin to them. And
That's how it used to be back in the day. Imagination.
Exactly.
Safety pins and duct tape. That's all you need.
Yep.
So anyway, back to your story.
So yeah, Robert has at least three different origin stories. Either grandfather was in Germany exploring Europe, bought the doll, shipped it back for Gene as a birthday gift.
Thanks
Another
for
one
birthday
was
gift.
and the story propagated from Aaron Mankey and lore. I'm not sure. I couldn't find it on any website, so I'm not sure where he got this information. Was that the aunt was traveling Germany, bought the doll as a companion for Gene, and shipped it back home.
Look, it's the basis of Megan.
And then there was a disgruntled housemaid.
Oh yeah,
who bought the doll and hexed it before she gave it to
as
Gene.
a practitioner of voodoo, because they were in Key West,
and that story comes straight from the museum's website. Well, not the museum, but Gene's house, the Otto's house, is now its own museum called the Artist House.
Right.
Yep.
And it's from that website. They say it's the maid.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Well, that lends an air of creepy to it.
Yeah, like they're going to lead into the most fantastic story.
I think that's probably the least likely.
Yeah. Oh, well, first off, one, that doll must have been real expensive. So for a maid to buy it. That would be a lot of money for
I
a
don't-
maid.
Unless
She
it was
bought
a
it.
window display and they sold it like half price because they're trying to get rid of it.
I think it was more that the doll came from as a gift, and then the maid hexed it.
See, I would believe
Oh.
that more than anything else.
Well, they said it
That's-
was a gift from the maid, though.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
no,
see.
you're right. So what happened? There's actually another story where Grandpa sent it, and then she was disgruntled, and later she hexed it on him.
Right.
So like they somewhere.
Then some people say it was the straw inside that was
Yep.
hexed. So there's so many like just there's not even a straight story for where the heck the doll came from, other than Germany. Like we know who made
we can
it.
trace that back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know
We don't know
that-
how it got to Gene.
Ray,
and we
Or
know
why
that-
it was only
what do
one.
you think, Ray?
About why or where?
Where? Who gave it to Gene? What
Give
do
us
you
an
think?
origin story.
Because I'm sure you're correct too.
I think it just manifested.
Whoa.
If you say it enough time, it just shows up.
Yeah, it just shows up.
Say it 3 times. I like it.
I'd really like to go into the history of the company.
Would you like to? You have it with you?
Oh, no, I don't. I would just
Oh.
like to know, like, what were they into?
Teddy bears.
Besides teddy bears.
Oh.
Yeah, they said that this doll, like it was just a window
Well,
display.
yeah, but, like, wouldn't you like to know, like, a little more about, like, the founder and stuff like that? Like, I don't know much about it.
I feel like we
and it
could-
wasn't really articulated in the
Someone do
literature.
some Google research really fast. I didn't do that research, Ray. I did the.
I was
doll.
just curious.
Gosh,
All
now I
right.
We
just feel
just
like
started
I'm
talking about
useless.
origin, and then it got me thinking, well, you know,
Let's do
ultimately it
pop-
came from a company.
But I think it's cool. That is the company that you mentioned, the Teddy Roosevelt. They made the
Mhm.
teddy bears. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. That's very cool.
But there are lots of stories about this messed up doll.
What we do know, excuse me, but what we do know is that once the doll came on the scene, Eugene Otto loved it so much, he named it after himself. So the doll was Robert and the kid was Gene.
Which I thought was kind of weird.
But does this go back to the whole like hair, like dolls look just like mini yous thing?
But even
I think
then,
that's what it is.
Like it inhabits his spirit kind of a thing, or yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't pick up Bargo.
Well,
I wouldn't go like, oh, look at this doll. It's Shanna now. Like that.
right, and then you surrender your identity if you think about it.
That's weird.
And okay, so the weird thing to me is I don't understand Gene's relationship with Robert. If it was like antagonistic or friendly, if this doll was active and coming to life and everything. And by the way, Robert, if you are and you can hear me, I'm sorry.
Tap
Don't be mad at
twice
me.
on the-
Yeah.
No. like
Wrong
and follow
kind of
us on
podcast.
Facebook.
All right, I'm just trying to tell a story here. But according to the story, the Ottos, the parents, would be awakened in the middle of the night by their son screaming and
Yeah.
yelling, and they'd hear all this noise, and then they'd go into his room and all his furniture would be overturned, and he would be saying, Robert did it, Robert did it.
It also ripped apart all of his toys.
Yeah, his favorite toys, which to me doesn't sound like he should be getting along that well with Robert, but for his whole life, Gene kept Robert and
Mhm.
kept him.
I think
very
it started
close.
off like as a friendly, if this thing is actually haunted. It started off as a friendly relationship. He loved the doll because that's how demons work. They kind of
It's a
schmooze.
bait and switch.
Yeah, they schmooze their way in, as we were discussing with Kyle and with you guys earlier. And then later, it took over that more antagonistic, dominant kind of personality. Like, how dare you? You will not play with this toy. I'm your only toy, and I'll make you hurt if you don't listen to me. Because what I found interesting is the one story, he used to talk to the doll, and it was fine. And the parents like, oh, it's so cute. He's like talking to himself, whatever, playing this toy. And then they started hearing 2 voices in the room.
Mhm.
And I find that, like, again, while it's just, oral tradition, we don't know if that's actually true, it is a quite compelling discussion that there is a second voice in the room.
It's a common story too of entities in dolls and inanimate objects and things like that. Where multiple voices in the room and stuff.
And perhaps that's refuting some of Kyle's thoughts too, because if, say, an entity was possessing the doll, and then once it's kind of like locked up in a museum and it can't be as active without like really being noticed, then maybe it's just sort of dormant or it's like abandoned.
It went
that
somewhere
as a-
else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my Annabelle belief. Like, you
Yeah.
can't have an Annabelle doll locked behind glass and keep the demon there. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
If that's how it was, I would have my house locked down and not let anything in. So PJ did find some research for us. So I think you did too.
Oh, on Stife?
Yeah, you
Yes.
go ahead.
I'll tell you a little.
Tell us a
Oh,
Oh,
little.
I'll tell you about Stipe.
Oh, whoa. My.
Stifle. I don't know. Actually, it was a woman-owned company. It started in 1880. She was a seamstress. And she started with actually dogs, cats, and pigs, it looks like. She designed most of the
Aw.
prototypes herself. So she was kind of talented.
They're
She died
supposed-
in 1909.
And they're supposed to be pin cushions
Oh, that makes sense.
originally.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pincushion tomato. I have one of those. I love it.
They're classic. But that is interesting. She died in 1909, and
So she
Robert
worked-
was 1904.
Yeah.
So he
Mhm.
was toward the end.
So she had a good 29-ish year run with her company.
Mm-hmm.
And her
Aw.
nephew took
Yep,
over,
29-ish.
and he's the one. He started making the dolls based on drawings and sketches from local zoos, and he started making stuffed animals based on those.
Okay.
And got a huge influx of orders in from one of the zoos, and that was kind of the beginning of the company as a toy company. Then,
Oh, cool. Okay.
yeah, and they also coined the idea of the tags in the ears for the toys, and that was to stop counterfeiting. Yeah, there's to make their company their own. Putting tags in the ears.
That's Richard Stife? Is that?
I think it was, yeah.
Mhm.
So if we put a tag in our ears with our Games Award logo, no one can take our stuff.
Hmm.
It's PJ, let's pierce your ear. Let's go.
All right, I'm ready.
In no way
I'd like
can
a
this
tracker.
go wrong. Hooray, you're next.
Oh gosh.
So my phone never loses me. There's
No,
be a
thank
tracker
you.
right there.
I want you
The
to be
trackers
free.
like in the couch and stuff. Yeah, it's great. Oh boy. All right. So there are more legendary stories of Robert though.
Yeah, so let's go back to the doll. So
Yes.
Gene has this doll. He loves the doll. The doll sits with him at dinner.
Oh yes.
The doll is talked to as if it's a real person.
And if you don't, he would get angry.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, was that the family or just Gene? That would
Family,
talk to it? Yeah.
Because one of the stories says the people felt like the doll was listening to their conversations and the facial expressions would change based on the conversation.
Yeah, that was more the second family that moved in who said that part.
Well, I think that was more
From what I
when he
read.
came
See,
back.
yeah, well, again, this is where the stories are all mixed up,
Mhm.
and it doesn't make any sense because the prominent version of that story I read was when the Ottos all died and moved out, and another family moved in. Which again, there's confusion about who moved in, but when the other family moved in and they had the doll for a while, they were the ones who said they noticed its facial features changing, and it would move around rooms and stuff like
See,
that.
in my research, it was when Otto came back with his wife
And
and they had parties at the house and whatnot, people felt very uncomfortable because Robert was always around, and when there were
Mhm.
conversations, his face would change.
yeah,
Regardless, though, other stories we've heard, kids would walk by because Otto, when he moved back, built a turret room for this darn doll. In his defense, it was all about art.
And it was stocked too. Yeah, with stuff.
Yeah,
Furniture. He furnished the entire attic.
Not Stife,
For
but
this-
stuff.
he could have called Stife for stuff.
Yeah.
That's hard to say.
Stife stuff.
But he built it because
That was a lot of fun.
his reasoning was it was the best place to get lighting for us because he was a painter. So I get that having an art room, but you said it was designed for Robert. He had little furniture and it was crazy.
Well, I think too, one of the articles said that it was really kind of that Jean's wife pushed for this because
she wanted it gone.
she didn't want the doll in the house,
Yeah.
which I can't blame her. And so, but the solution would be to turn your attic into, an artist studio / bachelor
Playroom?
pad / playroom.
My
Well,
hangout
even-
pad for me and my boo Robert.
well, even then they would lock it in the attic, and then the next day they would find it on the landing of the steps.
Right.
So that wasn't even enough for it.
And kids said they would see it move from window to window up in that
Yeah.
room. So that's pretty cool.
Well, let's not forget too, when he was a kid, the aunt said we need to get rid of this doll, and so they locked it in a box for the night, and then the next morning she was dead from a stroke.
Yes. There's another story too where one of the family members woke up in the middle of the night and it was standing there with a knife in its hands.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure if that's true because it's got plushy hands, just like the Annabelle, ragdoll, oh, I'm gonna strangle you. I don't understand. But I think our hypothesis back then was if it's a demon, you said you're maybe having like a dream sequence where you are being choked by the demon, or it's like an incubus situation. So it could have been like a dreamlike state where you saw a demonic entity with a knife and it really wasn't Robert, but it was just manifesting as Robert. If we go back to that kind of idea.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because after Gene comes back, he dies, after taking care of the doll and all that, and the wife, for whatever reason, deals with it. Like,
I wouldn't. I'm sorry.
no.
Peach and I had this conversation. Like, if that ever came out, it's like, we're done. Like, it's gonna be gone. It's not getting in the house. I don't care. Meat grinder.
The Lore TV
But
show.
put it in German sausages like last week's.
To research, I watched the Lore Amazon episode,
Mhm.
and the wife sets it on fire, and then it comes back the next day, and it's like, okay, good
That didn't happen in my research.
okay, Aaron Mankey, sure, have fun with that.
Hollywood strikes again.
Darn it. Still a better story than anything Zach Bagans ever did. Just saying.
So the wife didn't like it. They move, when he dies, she moves out. And now one of 3 different stories happens. Either, I wrote it down, either, this is from ranker.com. They say, there's a story of a family with a teenage girl who finds Robert, and she's like, happy to like this really cool doll, like, yay, until she starts waking up in the middle of the night with him sitting on her face trying to smother her, and like repeatedly.
Oh, those dolls.
Then there another story is that a man bought the house and died from carbon monoxide poisoning. I feel like that one could be researched and probably deduced.
Debunked.
Yeah, debunked. And then there's Myrtle Reuter,
That's the story that I've always
which
heard.
obviously at some point she does buy the house because she's the one who donated it to the museum. So, but was she the first one? Was there someone in between?
We could just
like-
look at like property ownership.
Yeah,
That'd
but,
be easy to fix.
Yeah, but you'd have to like live in Florida.
Let's just
for
go
all
down
that
there.
and
Let's.
everything.
She
We
likes
need
to.
a listener to go
She
and
likes to
investigate for us.
microfiche.
Yes.
She likes to
Yeah,
go do
I
that kind
do.
of research.
I would do
Listen,
it.
Laura in.
I would do it.
Next time I get stuck in a hurricane, we'll just stick them over there. And
Yes! So give me something to do.
But in terms of the knife story, that's another one like from Lore.
Yeah.
I can't find it really anywhere else.
we found it in one website, but it was a creepypasta.
It was
website.
creepypasta.
So you can't trust it as a reliable source.
And I found a couple other sites that do talk about it, but they're like
because that's why people think that Chucky is based off of Robert the doll, but he's not. As we mentioned before, he's based off of the My Buddy dolls, right?
Yeah. Florida Insider and Ghosts and Gravestones both mention it. But again, it's literally the same sentence. Like, they both found the same source, maybe Lore, and copied and pasted it of finding, or they wake up to hearing giggling, and there's the doll with a knife at the foot of their bed.
Apparently,
And it's
giggling
the
sounds
same.
were like
Giggling
this,
is a common thing, yeah. But I'm not sure I believe the whole knife story, because it's nowhere
I don't, because how's he supposed to hold it with his cute little fluffy
with his
hands?
puppy dog.
Yes.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah. got
he's
the
too
dog
busy.
in
He's
tow.
permanently
Right.
holding that dog.
Just like
That's
Lola.
true.
She can't hold a knife. She's too busy with the dog right now.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I mean,
the
how does
dog
he
is
throw
for-
furniture across the room?
He has to put the dog down.
Obviously.
Maybe he's angry because someone took his dog.
Ooh.
I could see it.
I would
see
be
that,
angry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that dog.
It's almost as creepy as him.
Kind of
I
looks
can
like a
see
sheep.
why they only made one.
Well, he likes it. They're peas in a pod. People on the outskirts of society.
It's like, oops, we made a mistake, and then
This
Sell
is one
it
of
to
God's
this
mistakes.
American.
silly Americans.
The one
I'll tell them it's
mistake.
German. It's foreign and exotic.
You get a decent discount price. I'm here. Have some German sausages.
Take this doll, too. One of a kind.
And the little dog, too. And it
It's
connects
a
to last
stuffed
week's
animal.
episode.
It's stuffed with something evil.
People.
Stuffed with evil.
Yeah, I mean,
Considering last week's episode was all about, Matthias Schombacher, who was possibly America's first serial killer and was killing people allegedly and putting it in his German sausages.
oh wow.
Yeah.
We had Kyle on for that one.
But-
Allegedly, he was never convicted.
It is interesting, though, to me, again, that Gene lived in this house with his wife, basically his whole life, with Robert in his own private apartment. But then, sooner or later, this Myrtle arrives on the scene, and then she lives with the doll for 20
She thinks
years.
it's cute and adorable.
Yeah, I mean, what is this magic with the doll that people, like, not just, like, keep it in the house, but keep it actively around and, like, are catering to it? Like, that, to me, is kind of what's unique about him.
Well, wasn't the Okiku doll that has the hair that grows?
Yeah.
Like, they keep that one around, and you said props to them for keeping it all this time because her hair keeps growing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Rapunzel.
Listen, if I moved into my house and that thing was in my house, either Okiku
Right?
or Robert, trash pile.
Right?
I ain't keeping that.
Like, I don't understand. Like,
I see, but this is the thing. Like, do you attempt to like get rid of it, or run
Yes.
the risk that it's going to come back
Well,
with
but-
a vengeance?
Is it going
What-
to crawl back on its little paw? hands
Yeah,
but
backwards.
and twitch.
Head twitch
I don't think there was any.
down the
There's no,
steps. I'm mixing.
Mixing meta stories.
Yeah.
but there's no research that says that Myrtle was afraid of it.
No, the only
Like, she
stories
didn't
you
try to
say
get
she
rid
liked
of
it.
Yeah, like it's not like she tried to get rid of it and then it came back and then she was afraid, so then she was catering to it. She
Maybe
just
she was
liked
really-
it and
Maybe
kept
she
him.
was lonely.
Maybe.
She was.
But like, why would you pick up somebody else's old doll?
I don't know.
Like, did she not have any of her own dolls from her own childhood? That's my question.
I
Like,
mean,
I don't know.
none like
was
this
before
one.
those
None like Robert.
reborn dolls. Maybe this was like her way of having a baby to take care of.
I don't know. I find it very intriguing that Jean was so attached, and then later Myrtle was so
I could
attached.
see your mom keeping a doll she'd find too. Like, maybe one day I'll give this to somebody.
I wouldn't encourage it.
Oh, I wouldn't either. I'm just saying that I could see it.
I don't know.
I found a lot of stuff in this house when we bought the
Well,
house.
that's true, but
Any
like,
dolls?
No, I throw those out. So if there were any,
I feel like she would look at it and be like, "What's this old junk? I'll buy a new doll." Like,
she'd be like, "We could sell this on eBay."
maybe.
Or your dad.
I don't
That'd be your
know.
dad.
It's intriguing to me, is all.
Nobody wants your soulless doll. Actually, I would. I mean, like if
Soulless doll. Actually, it has too much soul. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, to
If I
me,
had to
because
have
she
one.
kept it all that time, to me it debunks it even being haunted.
That's true.
Personally.
I mean, unless she was lonely, and maybe he was like actively like having tea with her, and like I don't know, he was her company for all we know. She may not have talked about it.
Well, I don't want to go into debunking yet because I want to talk about where Robert is right now, but I don't think he's real. I mean, he's a doll, but I don't think there's anything special about him. I agree with Kyle. But the story of him now, he is in I have it marked because I always mess up. He's in Key West. He's in a museum. It's on the beginning of page of one of those. But he's behind glass. He is in a new little outfit, like a new little box too, because someone made him a new one. But go ahead.
Yes, it is the
Fort East Martello Museum.
Yes.
Martello, is that pronounced? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can go visit him. Apparently there's lots of rules. You're supposed to like ask to take a picture of him, and if you don't, you're supposed to say you're sorry, or else bad things are going to happen. And that's when I firmly believe that whole like you are priming yourself to believe something bad's happening, because bad luck comes with good luck, and if your last name of Hayden, bad stuff happens all the time. Like,
It's
You're
just-
only saying that because our water heater broke today.
and Ray
A few
currently
days
is-
after Ray separated his shoulder.
a few
few-
days after
Before.
Alex dislocated his elbow.
And then a few days before, like I totaled my car.
Right.
Yeah,
you know,
only
so-
saying it for all
Nobody.
those reasons.
Yes, and guys, this is all true.
And they say it comes in threes, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we prime
3
ourselves.
squared.
only for the Haydens.
3 cubed, because we're that lucky.
We like math, so we like to extrapolate math. No, anyway, so I think that they prime themselves like, oh, I took a picture of Robert. Oh man, my car stalled. That must have been Robert. Let me send him an apology later. No.
Though
I'm
I do
sorry.
like some of these stories here, because I looked up like what are some curses that Robert has done to people, and on New York Post they have some here of this one person there, like, as I snapped the picture, I looked at my camera and it said no images. All 50 plus pictures we had taken in Key West were suddenly gone. The next day we went parasailing. The boat captain took a video of us in the air. We got back home, the disc was blank. We went to a camera store and they couldn't find no reason why our pictures were gone and why the disc was blank. I've been hearing some strange noises during the night since I've been home. To all who read this, please just listen to the lady at the front desk and ask for permission.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I
Sounds
find
like they have a defective camera.
Yeah,
It does
or maybe
kinda
they
sound
just
like that.
don't know how to use it.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
That's the trash button. Don't click the trash
I
button.
know.
Click the clicky on top button.
It's worth noting, though, that Robert does get 3 to 5 letters a day.
That's insane.
Mostly apology letters. And he even has, like, staff at the museum. Like, it's his personal assistant, basically, who reads his mail and takes care of him and all of that. There is one letter here. I think that you had marked this, Shanna. And it says here, this is one of the apology letters that he got. And it's, quote, "Sorry I did not ask out loud to take your photo. Since then, my husband lost his diamond out of his ring. I tore my rotator cuff, and my daughter's wedding was canceled. All happened before I returned home. Please stop the curse. I am truly sorry. Life is hard enough."
And again, coincidence, I'm sure. I'm sorry, but I don't. This is one time that I do not believe.
This is definitely like when you're looking for a pattern and you start to see a pattern.
You're priming yourself
Yep.
for it.
Yeah. Just like we talked about this on the podcast before, like EVP, electronic voice phenomena, when you're
Yeah.
listening to static and you like it will sound like static until someone puts a subtitle under it, and then suddenly you can understand what it's
Yeah.
saying.
Yes.
And then if someone changes the subtitle, oh, now it sounds like this, and
yeah.
it's the same kind of
Or when you play like
thought.
yeah, or do you remember that thing Helter Skelter, the Beatles album, and if you play it backwards,
Oh,
you hear
yeah.
Yes.
the devil is
And Chicago,
Yeah.
there's something with a Chicago album that does the same
Yep.
thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the artists was like, "It's hard enough to write a song forwards."
I
Like, I can't write it backwards.
Mhm.
You're hearing the scratching
was-
of your
yeah.
record. Please stop.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong.
So upsetting.
Yeah.
So I would like to start off by saying I don't believe it. I already mentioned that I don't believe this. You can have your own opinions, but we're going to ask like who believes what and why. I don't think he's actually any kind of like demonically possessed anything. I think a little kid got a toy. He fell in love. Some bad stuff happened and he blamed it on the doll. And again, we don't have any proof that multiple toys were torn apart. We don't have proof that, things were knocked all over. Sophie gets in the middle of the night and I'll yell at her, like, go back to bed. Oh, I'm just not tired. I don't care if you're not tired. Go back to bed. I'm sure they caught him, like, playing with toys and he got in trouble. And he's like, oh, it was Robert who did it. I'm sorry
Mhm.
to throw that in there because it's all supposition. But again, as a parent, and kids, lie. But I feel like he was obsessed with the doll.
Mhm.
He's an artist. But when he comes back and he spent all his time upstairs in the attic room in this turret tower thing with his friend and he's got it all decorated and he's talking to the doll, there's something wrong with Otto, not the doll. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's a disconnect there. And then you try to figure out a reason as to why, because we always want to have a reason as a human, right? Because, like, that social cue is wrong. Why is he playing with the doll? So you start making up lies. The second that you find something like that, you start adding to the rumor mill. And then you got to start
Mhm.
telling the stories more crazily and adding more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
I'm sure his wife, Anne, I'm sure she hated the doll. I know that I would. Get that thing out of here, But now we have a reason to make more excuses. And, we saw the doll move. And, we know that Robert's cursed because, and, it must have been voodoo. And why else would Otto be obsessed with this doll? Because he's a weirdo. Like, weirdos exist. So and then like some lady moves in and she's like, oh, it's a cute doll. I'll keep it. I think that just proves that it's not demonically possessed. She's like, here, have a doll. I really don't. I don't think there's anything like haunted or special about Robert personally, but that is my own cranky suggestion. So, what do you think, PJ?
Me? Okay. I want to believe this because it fits a lot of the tropes of a good haunted doll. The multiple voices in the room, the giggling, the footsteps, waking up and it's on the foot of your bed.
I can't do it.
It was a good try.
I tried.
Just the fact that he looks friggin' creepy. All that
Because he's an old doll.
all that stuff just like makes me want to believe it. But then there's just the complete lack of consistency for anything
Yeah.
in this story. And the fact that if he was so mobile for 100 whatever years, and now he's in a museum and he's not moving at all, that bothers me.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of the wind out of its
Maybe
sail
it's
there.
because he's so happy to be on display.
I mean that's
But
what
he
they
also
say.
doesn't want his picture taken. I mean, like, if you're going to be on display, what do you expect? Like,
He's
it's
Unicorns and Bluey. Change my mind. Change it again. Change my mind.
I wanted to believe it too, but you're right. The whole inconsistency situation does bother me. I think you make a good point.
I feel like Annabelle had more consistency than Robert the doll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with regards to the whole mobility issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we're comparing the two, like Annabelle, 100% is just
Like,
an
and
all
there's
around
more of
better
a
ghost
demonic
story.
background to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like,
But I really want to. Like, I want to dig into, like, so much stuff. Tell me a little bit about the company and, who was this woman?
And
I
you'd
mean, what
think-
was her background? Was
You'd
she a
think if
gypsy?
you had this evil freaking doll that you would start documenting or at least, like, know where it came from,
Yeah.
and
Right.
we shouldn't have to do a Google search during a podcast to answer one question.
That is true. I mean, and Myrtle donated, I think, in 1994. So, I
Yeah.
mean, like, that's pretty recent, all things
Mhm.
considered.
Yeah. Because
And
the
the fact that
Ottos
there's,
should
like-
have known, like, where this came from. That
Yeah.
should have been common knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, that and I just feel like they could have had their own research on their website. There's just, I had to go to all these different places to get something that showcases research. But like all the stories are there are a couple of consistencies, but most of it's just like, supposition or we heard about this. And I don't like the grapevine conversations
Yeah.
when it doesn't match. And the people who are in charge of it do not have a good history of it. That bothers me. Travel Channel had a better history of this stupid doll than the owners currently do.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, as Kyle said, if you can sell pictures of him in the shop, I don't care who you are. Like, this is just ridiculous.
I still wonder who would dress their kid as a sailor. Well, even and I still can't help my. Well, first off, and I think I come from a very like practical foundation. Like it's all white. Like I don't know.
I think it maybe just got like ugly as it aged.
Maybe I don't know.
I just imagine.
Well, you
there
just
being
think it's
a little-
impractical to
I
put
just
a
think
boy
it's-
in a white suit
Oh, yeah,
and go
yeah.
play.
Yeah, that sounds like a night.
Yeah. There are pictures of him in that sailor outfit, though.
But when you have servants,
Yeah,
you can put him in
that's
lots of
true.
white. A lot
That was
of children.
even
another
then.
origin story. There's a picture of him with like a little girl the same age as him, like, and he's in a sailor outfit and they're outside playing. One of the other origin stories is that she gave him the doll.
Oh, where'd she get it?
I know because she had the money to get a custom-made doll
Germany.
from Germany.
A single use. But putting kids in white was actually pretty common back then, just because they're pure and innocent and all that.
I know,
jazz.
but something changes. I think when they're like 5,
Mobile?
6, 7.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They play in mud. But I think it's because you have servants to change them and clean the clothes.
I guess.
Could have
That'd be
been
my
for
guess.
like, a dress up or costume or a photo or something too, for something specific.
Laura, you haven't officially given your stance on this.
I haven't. I tend to agree. I think he's just a weird doll, but I think there must be something about him that when Myrtle moved in, that to me is like, I could understand Gene, because I still have like my 2 childhood toys, Elliot and Piggy, I still have them, and I get that I always have them, right? But I don't have a special room.
You
for
don't
them.
drink tea with them. They're not
Right.
invited to dinner.
I don't have tea parties, like they're, whatever. They don't travel with me. But I could understand like that Gene would have this doll and keep him forever. But I don't understand why someone else would have, at that point, an old, not very attractive, sorry, Robert, doll that was just like hanging out in this house that they bought. I mean, to me, that's like part of the stuff that you clear out for your own stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it was a drawback to her past too,
I mean, and
because she
maybe
was
she
older.
liked antiques, you know.
Yeah,
She
so
could have, yeah.
I easily would say like, oh, for that. Oh, I remember seeing things like this when I was a kid. Not this exact model, but I remember. Oh, this takes me back. I could see them keeping it for that.
Right.
Can I recommend another discussion bit? Would the Warrens believe this is demonic?
Yes.
Why weren't they called?
Yep.
I mean, don't
We
they
need
think
the
everything
Warrens.
is? Did that tin just move?
But to tie it all together, to go back to my opening discussion, I think the reason that so many stories crept up about Robert the doll is because of the theory of the uncanny. Because Otto must have had social cues that were in discord to our beliefs as, regular, I hate to use the term, but regular humans. So the fact that he enjoyed a doll, even through his adulthood, that must have bothered people enough to make up lies. Make up stories. And I think it's perpetuated then. And then what didn't happen really in his childhood probably became lore later. And now, of course, we have this crazy belief in this doll. So I think it's just because people made excuses for something that they didn't see as normal. Because you can see people walking around with dolls nowadays. We're all like, YOLO, you do you. Girl, you go get it. We don't really care now, right? We're a little more accepting. But there is always a sect of humanity that will make up excuses and make up, bad stories for those that we don't understand. So I think if I was going to get real and sad for a second, I think that happened. I think Otto had a very sweet heart. I think Anne recognized that. And they came back and he's like, oh, I forgot about you, my best friend. And Anne's like, honey, no, put that away. And then
You can have a man cave in the attic.
yeah, get it upstairs.
A man cave / playroom.
Exactly.
Go play with your doll.
Go with your doll. But paint lots of good paintings so we can live comfortably. Good job, honey. So I think that's what happened.
Robert, what do you think about this one?
What if Robert...
Go ask Robert your question about that.
But we haven't considered a question, though. What if Robert was the artist?
Mind blown.
Mm.
What if Robert didn't want to be up there? Maybe he wanted to go up there because he was sick of Anne.
Maybe.
I wonder if Robert's the reason why Gene was so eccentric in his adulthood. I wonder how much that...
Well, another belief is that Gene is Robert, and that Gene just poured himself into the doll like a Horcrux.
Or Fight Club.
Yes.
Well, you know what I mean, right? Fight
Yes.
Club.
This took
Yes.
quite an unexpected turn.
Oh, yeah.
We don't talk about Fight Club, Ray.
I'm sorry.
We have one rule.
How we just broadcast it to everyone too.
One job. I have to scrub that now out of here.
Oh.
Tyler Durden, we're very sorry.
Robert the doll, also very sorry. Just in case.
Or Otto, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Gene?
Robert,
Gene?
Eugene, Otto the doll, and anything else that you...
Otto Octavius, if you're real and out there too. Dr. Octopus.
Why aren't you talking to Carrie?
Carrie.
If you're listening.
Carrie, if you're listening, we're still coming for that interview.
We are really off track.
Speaking of Hillview Manor now is taking appointments reservations.
Ooh.
So that's something
How far is that again?
Not very, less than
An
2
hour and a
hours.
half?
We're game.
Live and on location.
Cool.
Yeah.
Our
I think
dog's
it'd be
welcome.
awesome.
That's the
I think it'd
real
be really
question.
cool. What?
Our dog's welcome.
No, it's not safe. Even if you buy a little hard hat. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
your
can
little
you
paws
imagine though
couldn't
if she
take
had
it.
a little hard hat?
Oh, you guys.
This is what happens when you're our age and
She
no
already
kids.
can't breathe,
She's
and you're
our
going to put her
dog.
in lead paint rooms? Like, come on now. That's not
Well,
healthy.
she'd be protected from breathing in the lead
I
paint.
know.
She's wearing her own face mask.
Get your nose away from that mic. You bumped it enough tonight. What? This isn't food? I'm going to lick it again. Oh, boy. Anyway, back... Yeah, thank you, Lola. Back to our discussion of Hillview Manor. I've decided that next week I want to discuss Penhurst.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Let's get on to that kind of discussion because we got some really good ironic wording there. Some really horrible places in Pennsylvania, like reformatories
Good for
and
our
stuff.
content.
Good for our content, yeah. So that's going to be a good story to tell. I'm not sure if it's just going to be you and me or if we'll invite you back. 'Cause we love having you guys here. Really just depends on
Depends on your schedules, really.
Yeah.
We're around.
Are you volunteering
It's
for the
Tuesdays.
chamber? Chemist? Always Tuesdays.
We're good.
Cool.
Cool.
And next week when we're here, I'll be 36.
Ooh.
I'll be on the wrong
wow.
side of 30.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be older than you finally, again,
Again, for a couple weeks.
for 3 weeks. All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much for being on, you two. It's always
Thank
a
you
blast.
for having us.
Thank you.
You hear that? Thank you for having us. They have a goodbye. What do you want to say?
Goodbye.
I don't know what I expected. I love you so much.
You know, for someone who has a podcast, he's a man of few words.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll cut some
It's
of
just
that
it's
dead
just
air
great
out.
to do this tour
It's painful.
every week.
Anyway, let's say our goodbyes. Thank you for listening to Well House Exorcism. Please be sure to listen to our other podcast, Games Overboard, our baby, our creation, where we
review board games and talk about the stories they tell.
you can also listen to Danger and Dice, our other baby. We love it so much. Brand new story.
Yep, this week we have our first episode of first real episode of the new story. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Jack has in store
I'm
for
a little
us.
concerned. In our story of Foreseer, brand new homebrew world and everything. Please be sure to check us out on Facebook, like and follow us. Hop on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. You can also listen to all of our podcasts on all of your major platforms out there, Spotify and whatnot. Email us at gamesoboard@gmail.com or hit us up on our website at gamesoboard.com. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.